Rain hammered the streets of Manhattan like broken glass. Lena clutched her thin gray coat against her swollen belly, the wind slicing through her every step. Her phone vibrated again, Ethan's name flashing like a warning siren. She silenced it, but another message popped up instantly. "You can't hide from me. You'll regret this." Her breath trembled. Her shoes were soaked, her heart louder than the traffic. Taxis splashed past, yellow streaks of light on the wet asphalt. She waved desperately, but none stopped. Behind her, a black umbrella moved fast through the crowd. Ethan's silhouette, the same tailored coat, the same walk she knew too well. Her stomach twisted in fear. She turned, pushing through strangers under neon signs. Her reflection flashed across the luxury windows. Dior, Cartier, Tiffany, reminding her of everything he flaunted online while she lived off instant noodles and cheap tea. A Mercedes S-Class slowed near the curb. The driver glanced, mistaking her for a guest of one of the nearby hotels. Lena shook her head, whispering, "No, please," then turned toward the golden glow ahead, the Plaza Hotel. The revolving doors gleamed like a portal to safety. She stumbled forward, almost tripping on the steps, rainwater sliding down her face like tears she'd run out of time to cry. Inside, warmth hit her. Crystal chandeliers shimmered above marble floors. She took one step, then another, until the world tilted. Her vision blurred. A strong pair of arms caught her just before she fell. "Hey, easy," a deep voice said, calm, steady. She blinked, breath short, staring up into dark eyes beneath damp hair. The man's suit was soaked, his cologne subtle and grounding, not sharp like Ethan's. "I'm sorry," she gasped. "I didn't mean—" "It's okay," he said softly. "You're safe now." Something about that voice tugged at a memory. Years ago, the train station, sirens, the stranger who'd collapsed, the life she'd tried to save before disappearing into the crowd. But she couldn't think. Her knees buckled. The man steadied her again. "Let's get you a seat," he murmured, waving to a concierge. Outside, through the glass doors, Ethan's figure appeared, pressing against the glass, scanning the lobby. Lena's pulse spiked. The stranger followed her gaze, then subtly signaled to the security guard. "No one comes near her," he ordered, his tone suddenly authoritative. Lena trembled, whispering, "He's my ex. He'll hurt me." The man's jaw tightened. "Then he won't get the chance." The guard moved quickly, blocking Ethan from entering. For the first time in months, Lena breathed. The stranger handed her a towel, his hand warm but respectful. "You need to rest," he said. "Do you have somewhere to stay?" She hesitated, too ashamed to admit she had nowhere. The man glanced toward the elevator. "Then stay here for a while." "Just tonight." Her eyes widened. "Why are you helping me?" He gave a faint, almost nostalgic smile. "Because once, you helped me." Lena froze. Her mind raced back to that day in Grand Central, 2 years earlier, when she'd knelt beside a man who'd collapsed and waited for paramedics. Could it be him? But before she could ask, the guard returned, confirming Ethan had left. Relief flooded her chest. She whispered, "Thank you." The man nodded. "I'm Adrian Vale." The name echoed through her mind. Adrian Vale, the billionaire founder of a global security tech firm. Her legs nearly gave out again. Rain pounded the hotel windows, but inside, time seemed to stop. She looked at the man who had just shielded her from the storm, inside and out, and realized her life had just crossed an invisible line she could never return from. And outside the plaza, Ethan's shadow still lingered, waiting. The lobby of the plaza smelled faintly of roses and polished marble. Lena sat on the edge of a velvet sofa, shivering as rainwater dripped from her sleeves. A staff member offered her a cup of chamomile tea, steam curling up like fragile hope. Across from her stood the man who had caught her, Adrian Vale. His tailored suit clung to his shoulders, damp but still impossibly neat, as if the rain itself respected him. "Drink," he said gently. "You look like you've been running for miles." Lena hesitated before taking a sip. Warmth spread through her chest, and for the first time all night she felt the world slow down. "Thank you," she murmured, her voice hoarse. He sat across from her, elbows resting lightly on his knees. Who was that man outside? She glanced toward the door, where the security guard still stood watch. "My ex-husband," she said quietly. "He doesn't know how to let go." Adrian nodded slowly, his gaze calm but unreadable. "You're safe here. No one can touch you." Those words, simple, steady, made her chest tighten. Safe. She hadn't felt that in months. The concierge returned with a towel and a hotel robe. Miss, a room can be arranged if you wish to rest, he said politely. Oh, I can't, Lena said quickly. I don't have the money. Adrian reached for his phone. Charge it to my suite. Lena's eyes widened. Please no, you've already done too much. He smiled faintly, almost apologetic. You saved me once. Let's call it even. She blinked, confused. Saved you? Adrian leaned back slightly. 2 years ago, Grand Central Station, I fainted on the platform, hit my head. Someone called 911, kept me awake until help came. The EMT said a woman with a lavender scarf stayed by my side. His voice softened. You were wearing that same color tonight. Lena froze. Her breath caught. That was you? He nodded, a quiet laugh slipping out. Seems fate likes to make things complicated. She stared at him, at the tiny scar near his temple, the one she remembered seeing as she pressed a cloth to stop the bleeding that day. Her heart thudded painfully. Adrian stood. Come on. You shouldn't sit here soaked. Let's get you upstairs. He gestured toward the elevator, but she hesitated again. What if he comes back? Then security will handle him, he said firmly. And tomorrow, I'll make sure you're not alone in dealing with him. The elevator chimed softly. Inside, mirrored walls reflected their weary faces. Lena hugged her arms around her belly, whispering, I'm sorry for causing trouble. Adrian glanced at her reflection. Don't ever apologize for surviving. The elevator doors opened to a quiet hallway with golden lighting. He guided her to a suite at the corner, spacious, overlooking Central Park. A MacBook glowed faintly on the desk, beside a glass of untouched wine. The city lights shimmered through the window like another universe, too far from her broken one. You can shower and rest, he said. I'll stay in the lounge next door if you need anything. Lena stood still, hands trembling. Why are you really helping me? He looked at her for a long second. Because I've seen what fear looks like. And because you didn't walk away from a stranger once, you stayed. Tears burned her eyes, but she blinked them back. I don't know what to say. Then don't, he said softly. Just rest. As the door closed, Lena sank onto the bed, staring at the skyline beyond the glass. Rain streaked down the windows like silver threads, and for the first time she wasn't running. But somewhere deep down she knew this calm wouldn't last long. Morning light spilled across the suite, soft and golden, brushing over cream curtains and a table set with untouched breakfast. Croissants, strawberries, and coffee still warm in its silver pot. Lena woke to the hum of the city below. For a brief second, she forgot the chaos of last night. Then her phone buzzed. The name on the screen shattered her calm. Ethan. She opened the message with trembling hands. If you think hiding behind a rich man makes you safe, you're wrong. I'll destroy you. Another followed. You stole from me. Her stomach tightened. Lena reached for the MacBook Air on the desk and opened her email. There it was. A forwarded message from Ethan's lawyer accusing her of transferring $5,000 from their joint account. Her breath caught. That money had paid his mother's hospital bill last year. She'd even sent him the receipt. God, no, she whispered. A knock came at the door. It's Adrian, a calm voice said. She opened it hesitantly. Adrian stood there in a crisp white shirt, sleeves rolled up, holding 2 coffees. Thought you might need this, he said. Thank you, she murmured, taking the cup. You look like you've seen a ghost, he said gently. She handed him the laptop. He's accusing me of stealing. I don't have proof it was for his mother's care. I deleted the messages to save space. Adrian studied the email, his jaw tightening. He's trying to corner you legally. That's textbook manipulation. Lena sat down, tears welling. I can't fight him. He knows every trick, every weakness. Adrian set the coffee aside and crouched down so his eyes met hers. Then we'll find the proof. Nothing vanishes completely. Not online, not in banks. I can connect you with someone who specializes in digital records. She shook her head quickly. No, I can't drag you into this. He gave a faint smile. Too late. You already did when you fell into my arms. That made her laugh softly despite the fear curling in her chest. Later that afternoon, while Adrian attended a meeting in his office downtown, Lena sat in the hotel lounge, scrolling through old backups. Her reflection on the laptop screen looked unfamiliar. Pale, tired, but still standing. She sipped her tea, tracing the edge of the cup to keep her hands from shaking. A woman nearby whispered to her friend, Isn't that Adrian Vale? He's supposed to be worth billions. Lena pretended not to hear, but her pulse quickened. Was she becoming another headline? Her phone buzzed again. Mia, her best friend. Where are you? Mia's voice was sharp. Ethan just posted a photo of you at the plaza. He's making it sound like you're with your lover. Lena's throat tightened. He's lying. Of course he is, Mia said, but people will believe the picture before the truth. Lena looked toward the large glass windows where rain still streaked faintly from last night's storm. Then I'll have to show them who he really is, she said quietly. When Adrian returned that evening, he found her sitting upright with the laptop open, a determined look on her face. You were right, she said. I found the old email with the hospital invoice on a cloud backup. He smiled. Good. That's one step. I'm done running, she whispered. If he wants a war, he'll have to fight the woman he created. Adrian nodded slowly, admiration flickering behind his calm expression. Then let's make sure you win it. Outside, the city lights came alive again. In the reflection of the window, Lena saw herself no longer as prey, but as someone about to reclaim her story. And somewhere across town, Ethan poured another drink, plotting his next move. The next morning, Manhattan glowed beneath a thin mist, the city pulsing with its usual rhythm, horns, footsteps, and coffee cups clinking. Lena sat inside a small Starbucks near Central Park, her fingers wrapped around a latte she couldn't afford but needed. Across from her sat Mia, her best friend since college, eyes wide with worry. You look pale, Mia said, brushing her hair back. Are you sure you're eating? Lena forced a smile. It's just the baby, and everything. Mia sighed, pulling out her phone. I saw Ethan's latest post. He's saying you ran off with some billionaire. It already has hundreds of comments. Lena's stomach churned. He's turning my life into gossip. Not gossip, Mia said sharply. Defamation. You need to fight back. I can't, Lena whispered. If I go public, it'll hurt my baby, my reputation, and Adrian. I don't want to drag him through this. Mia leaned forward, lowering her voice. Wait, did you say Adrian Vale? The Adrian Vale? The tech security guy from Wall Street? Lena hesitated. Yes, but I didn't know who he was when I met him. I swear. Mia blinked, stunned. Oh my God, Lena, do you realize who he is? His company builds security software for major banks. I read about him last year. He nearly died after collapsing in Grand Central. EMT said a stranger saved him. Lena froze mid-breath. Her heartbeat pounded in her ears. Mia frowned. What's wrong? That was me, Lena whispered. Mia's mouth fell open. What? I was there that day, Lena said, voice trembling. I'd just finished a double shift at the diner. He collapsed right in front of me. I didn't even think. I called 911, did CPR until the paramedics arrived. He thanked me before they took him away. I never saw him again. Until now. Mia sat back, shaking her head slowly. That's insane. Out of everyone in this city, you ran into him again? That's not coincidence, Lena. That's fate knocking twice. Lena looked out the window, where taxis sped past and the morning light shimmered across puddles. Fate. The word scared her. Fate didn't save people like her. It tested them. Her phone buzzed. Another message from Ethan. Enjoy your billionaire before he finds out what kind of woman you really are. Mia saw her flinch. He's still harassing you? Lena nodded weakly. I can't block him. If I do, he'll just show up in person. Mia's jaw tightened. Then we collect proof, every message, every threat. We'll build a case before he ruins you. Lena wanted to protest, but Mia was already typing, saving screenshots. I know you don't want to fight dirty, Mia said, but sometimes survival looks like war. As the morning crowd thickened, a black SUV pulled up outside. Adrian stepped out, tall and calm, dressed in a navy coat. Heads turned as he entered, but he barely noticed. When he saw Lena, his expression softened. Sorry for interrupting, he said, nodding politely to Mia. You must be her friend. Mia smiled warily. The one who's been cleaning up her ex's mess for months. Adrian sat down beside Lena. Then I owe you a thank you. He placed a slim folder on the table. I had my team look into your ex's accounts. Nothing illegal, yet, but his gambling transactions are traceable. Lena's eyes widened. You did that? He nodded. I don't like bullies. Mia glanced at Lena, smirking. Girl, I think you just found the one man your ex shouldn't mess with. Lena blushed, hiding her face behind her cup. For the first time in months, she let herself laugh. A small, trembling sound that carried more relief than joy. Outside, the rain had stopped, and the sunlight spilled through the window, touching her cheek like a quiet promise. But deep down, she knew peace was never permanent. Ethan wasn't done yet. By the end of the week, Lena's world felt like a ticking clock. Every minute brought another threat, another reminder of the life she was running from. The sun dipped low over Manhattan, turning the city gold, but inside her chest, everything felt gray. Her phone buzzed again. It was Ethan. "Meet me at Central Park by the fountain. If you don't, I'll leak everything." She stared at the screen, her hands trembling. What everything? What could he possibly have left? She'd already lost her home, her reputation, and her peace. There was nothing more to take, yet she knew Ethan. He always found a new way to hurt. At the Plaza's lounge, Adrian noticed her pale face as she packed her bag. "Where are you going?" She hesitated. "He wants to meet." Adrian frowned. "That's dangerous. I need to know what he's planning. If I keep running, he wins." Adrian stood, calm but firm. "Then you're not going alone." Outside, the air was sharp and cold. Cole, Adrian's security chief, followed a few steps behind, blending into the background. Lena walked through Central Park, her breath fogging in the evening air. The fountain glowed under soft lights, the sound of water mixing with distant laughter. It used to be their favorite spot. Now it felt haunted. Ethan was already there, wearing his tailored coat and fake smile. "There you are," he said, spreading his arms as if greeting an old friend. "You look radiant." Lena stopped a few feet away. "What do you want, Ethan?" He tilted his head. "Just what's mine. You took $5,000 from me. Don't play innocent." "That money paid your mother's hospital bill," she snapped. "I have proof." Ethan laughed, low and cruel. "Then show me." "I will, in court if I have to." His smile faded. "You won't, because you don't have the guts." Her pulse quickened, but she stood her ground. "Try me." He took a step closer, lowering his voice. "You think that rich guy can protect you forever? He'll get bored. They always do. Then where will you go?" "I'll still have my child," she said firmly. Ethan's jaw clenched. "That's my child too." "No, Ethan. You lost that right the day you raised your hand to me." For a moment, silence stretched between them. The wind blew, rustling the leaves. His eyes burned with anger, but beneath that, there was fear of losing control. He reached into his coat pocket, pulling out his phone. "You see, I've got friends who'd love to know how fast you moved on. One little post, and the world will know you're a cheater, a gold digger." Lena exhaled slowly, remembering Mia's words. "Sometimes survival looks like war." She pressed record on her iPhone, the red light glowing faintly in her pocket. "Go ahead," she said quietly. "Tell them. But when they ask why your bank account shows casino transactions every night, what will you say then?" Ethan froze. "You forgot who set up those transfers, didn't you?" she continued. "Your debts, your fake invoices. I saw everything." His smirk faltered. "You can't prove that." "I can," she said, raising her eyes to meet his. "And I will." Behind a nearby bench, Cole subtly nodded. Everything was captured, every word, every threat. Ethan's face darkened. "You'll regret this." "I already did," she said. She turned and walked away, her heart pounding but steady. The cold air stung her cheeks, but she didn't look back. From a distance, Adrian's black Mercedes waited at the park entrance. When she climbed inside, Adrian's gaze met hers, calm, proud, but protective. "Did he touch you?" "No," she said softly, "but he showed me exactly who he is." Adrian started the car, the city lights reflecting off the windshield, and as they drove away, neither of them saw Ethan's shadow lingering by the fountain, smiling, already plotting his next move. 2 days later, the sun hid behind heavy clouds over Manhattan. Lena sat by the window of Adrian's penthouse, staring at the city below. Her fingers traced the rim of a cooling cup of coffee. Everything felt fragile again, like one wrong word could shatter the quiet she'd found. Her email notification chimed. She opened it, expecting another spam message. Instead, her stomach dropped. The subject line read, "Notice of Custody Review, Cole vs. Nguyen." Ethan had filed for custody. Her hands shook as she scrolled through the attached documents. He'd accused her of emotional instability and involvement with an unrelated male of significant wealth. He was painting her as reckless, a gold digger incapable of raising a child. Tears welled in her eyes. Adrian entered the room, loosening his tie after a meeting. "You look pale. What happened?" She turned the laptop toward him. "He's trying to take my baby." He skimmed the document quickly, his jaw tightening. "He's using your stay here against you. That's low, even for him." "I told you," she said, voice trembling. "He'll twist everything." Adrian took a deep breath, his expression calm but resolute. Then we'll stop him. I'll call someone who can help. Within hours, they sat inside a high-rise law firm overlooking Park Avenue. The office was sleek, with floor-to-ceiling windows and a quiet hum of authority. A woman in her 40s, sharp-eyed but kind, entered and extended her hand. "I'm Amanda Reyes," she said. "Adrian told me a bit about your case. Let's make sure this man doesn't win." Lena explained everything: Ethan's control, the threats, the false accusations. Amanda listened carefully, jotting notes with a Mont Blanc pen. When Lena finished, the lawyer leaned forward. "Do you have evidence of his behavior? Messages, witnesses, recordings?" Lena nodded slowly. "Yes, I recorded our last conversation at the park, and my friend Mia has screenshots of his posts." "Perfect," Amanda said. "We'll use those. Every text, every post, everything leaves a digital footprint. We'll request his financial records too. If he's gambling, it'll show." Lena felt a flicker of hope. "You think that'll be enough?" Amanda smiled faintly. "With his ego? More than enough." Adrian stood beside the window, arms crossed, watching the clouds shift over the skyline. "What's our next move?" "We'll file a counterclaim," Amanda said, "and make sure the court knows about the abuse and harassment. But Lena," she added, turning to her, "you have to stay calm. Don't contact him, no matter what he says." "I won't," Lena promised, though her voice wavered. After the meeting, Adrian walked her through the glass lobby, the city lights reflecting off the marble floors. "You did good in there," he said softly. "I felt like I was breaking," she admitted. "Breaking doesn't mean losing," he replied. "Sometimes it's just transforming." She looked at him then. Really looked. He wasn't just the man who'd saved her from the rain. He was someone who understood silence, pain, and control. Maybe because he'd lived it too. That night, back at the penthouse, the storm finally broke. Rain lashed against the windows as Lena sat by the window, clutching her belly. Adrian worked quietly across the room, typing on his MacBook Pro, his presence steady and grounding. A notification pinged on Lena's phone. Another message from Ethan. "You think lawyers will save you? You're mine until I say otherwise." Her heart pounded. She wanted to throw the phone away, but instead she screenshot the message and sent it to Amanda. Seconds later, Adrian turned his head. "Another one?" "Yes," she whispered. He crossed the room, gently took the phone and set it on the table. "He's losing control. That's when men like him get sloppy, and that's when they fall." Lena nodded, her breath shaky. Outside, lightning lit the sky, flashing across the glass towers of Manhattan. Somewhere between fear and exhaustion, Lena realized something. This wasn't just survival anymore. It was the beginning of her fight back. And in the reflection of the storm, she swore Ethan would never own another piece of her again. The invitation arrived in a thick white envelope embossed with gold. Adrian left it on the counter next to Lena's tea, saying casually, "It's a charity gala this Friday at the Ritz-Carlton. My company's sponsoring it. You should come." Lena blinked, startled. "Me? At something like that?" He smiled. "You've survived worse crowds." She laughed softly, though her heart thudded. She hadn't worn a proper dress in months, let alone stood under chandeliers surrounded by people who judged everything. Still, a part of her wanted to prove, to herself, to Ethan, that she could walk through fire and still look untouched. Friday night came with the glow of city lights stretching across Manhattan like gold veins. Adrian's driver opened the door to a black Mercedes, and Lena stepped out, her breath catching. She wore a pale blue gown, borrowed from Adrian's assistant. Simple but elegant, the kind that whispered confidence. Her hair, styled loosely, brushed her shoulders as she looked up at the grand entrance. Inside, the ballroom shimmered under crystal lights. Waiters glided with champagne trays, laughter floated like smoke, and cameras flashed near a velvet backdrop. The air hummed with luxury. Cartier watches, Dior perfumes, conversations about stocks and art. Lena followed Adrian through the crowd, staying close but not clinging. He moved easily, greeting executives and journalists, his composure effortless. Everyone knew his name, no one knew hers, until Ethan appeared. He stood near the auction table, tuxedo perfectly fitted, smile sharp as glass. On his arm was Jasmine Leclerc, a socialite with thousands of followers and a reputation for chasing power. She looked Lena up and down, smirking slightly. "Well, this is awkward," Ethan said, raising his glass. "Didn't expect to see you here, darling." Lena froze. Adrian, however, remained calm. "Mr. Cole?" he said smoothly. "Small world." Ethan's eyes flicked between them. So it's true then. My wife found herself a savior. Lena's voice was steady. Ex-wife. Ethan chuckled, leaning closer. You always did upgrade fast. Adrian's gaze hardened. You're drunk. Walk away before you say something you'll regret. Regret? Ethan sneered. You think your money scares me? Adrian didn't answer. Instead, he subtly motioned to the hotel security guard across the room. The guard nodded once and began to approach. Jasmine tugged Ethan's arm. Let's go. You're making a scene. But Ethan yanked free, his voice rising. She stole from me. Ask her where she got that dress. Ask her whose hotel she's sleeping in now. The room fell silent. Dozens of eyes turned. Flashbulbs flickered. Lena's face burned, but she held her ground. I didn't steal anything, Ethan. I paid your mother's hospital bills while you gambled away our rent. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Ethan's face reddened. Adrian stepped forward, calm but firm. That's enough. You'll leave now. Ethan tried to speak, but two security guards appeared, taking him gently by the arms. As they escorted him out, cameras followed, whispers spreading like wildfire. Lena's knees nearly buckled, but Adrian caught her elbow discreetly. It's over, he whispered. Don't give them your tears. She straightened, chin lifted. Around her, people returned to their conversations, pretending not to stare. But she could feel the whispers following her, like shadows. Adrian leaned close. You handled that better than most would. I feel like I'm shaking apart inside, she admitted. He smiled softly. That means you're human. But you didn't break. That's what matters. Later, as the orchestra played a slow jazz tune, Lena slipped to the balcony for air. The city stretched endlessly beneath her, glittering like a sea of secrets. For the first time in a long time, she felt lighter. Then her phone buzzed. A notification from an unknown number. You think you won tonight? The game's not over. Lena's blood ran cold. She turned toward the ballroom, where flashes still went off, and realized Ethan had planted his next move before ever walking in. The following morning, the headlines were everywhere. Billionaire Adrian Vale defends pregnant woman from ex-husband at charity gala. Mystery woman sparks drama at Ritz-Carlton event. Lena stared at her phone, numb. Every photo, every comment twisted the truth. Strangers speculated about her belly, her dress, her past. The internet had turned her pain into entertainment. She switched off the screen, her pulse racing. He planned this, she whispered. Adrian looked up from his laptop across the suite. Ethan? Yes, someone was filming before the fight even started. He wanted this to go public. Adrian's expression darkened. Then he miscalculated. I don't lose control that easily. He called Cole, his head of security. Within an hour, Cole arrived with a small folder and a USB drive. We pulled the footage from the hotel's surveillance, he said. You'll want to see this. Adrian inserted the drive into his MacBook Pro. The video played, Ethan cornering Lena near the balcony, gesturing aggressively while whispering threats. In the background, a YouTuber with a vlog camera was filming his luxury lifestyle segment. The entire confrontation had been caught on film. Cole paused the video. That guy, Miles Porter, influencer, 1 million followers. He doesn't know he captured gold. Adrian looked at Lena. We'll contact him quietly, offer to buy the footage before Ethan does. Lena bit her lip. Won't that just make the story bigger? Maybe, Adrian said, leaning back. But sometimes the truth deserves a microphone. Later that afternoon, Lena met Miles at a cafe downtown. He was younger than she expected. Bright-eyed, nervous, clearly intimidated by Adrian's assistant, who sat nearby. Look, I didn't mean to invade anyone's privacy, Miles said quickly. I was just vlogging. You didn't, Lena said gently. You actually caught what really happened. I just don't want it used to hurt anyone. Miles hesitated. Your ex already offered me money for it. Her chest tightened. How much? 10 grand. Adrian's assistant placed a discreet envelope on the table. You'll get twice that, but the footage comes to us and you'll post a clarification. No edits, no spin. Miles looked between them, then nodded. Deal. That night, Lena sat in the suite as Adrian uploaded the raw clip to a secure drive. We'll let your lawyer decide when to release it, he said. Once the court sees this, his credibility's gone. Lena stared at the frozen frame of Ethan's angry face on the screen. He always thought he could humiliate me, she murmured. Now the world will see who he really is. Adrian turned toward her. You don't need revenge, Lena. You just need freedom. She smiled faintly. Maybe both. The next day, the video leaked, not from them but from Miles, who posted it before deleting it 5 minutes later. 5 minutes were enough. The internet exploded again, this time in her favor. Woman stood up to abusive ex at gala. Adrian Vale's mystery guest was a survivor. Ethan's PR team scrambled, but the damage was done. Sponsors backed away from his consulting business. Old rumors resurfaced. His perfect mask began to crack. Lena sat by the window of the suite that evening, the city glowing beneath her. She should have felt victorious, but all she felt was exhaustion. "Every time I breathe, he finds a new way to attack," she said quietly. Adrian poured her a cup of tea. "That's what weak men do when they realize they can't own strong women." She looked up, meeting his eyes. There was warmth there, and something else, respect. Outside, flashbulbs still flared near the hotel entrance, photographers hoping for another headline. Lena closed the curtains. "Let them talk," she said softly. "This time, they'll talk about the truth." But as the room grew quiet, her phone vibrated again. A new message from an unknown number. "You think I'm finished? Watch what happens next." Her hands went cold. Adrian saw her expression change and stepped closer. "Ethan?" She nodded slowly. And somewhere in the dark corner of the city, Ethan smiled, because his next move wasn't about publicity. It was personal. 3 days later, Manhattan was drenched again. Gray skies pressing down on the city like a weight. Lena sat in Adrian's office on the 47th floor, staring at the folder Amanda Reyes, her lawyer, had just placed on the glass desk. The scent of coffee filled the room, blending with the faint hum of computers. Amanda adjusted her glasses. "We finally got access to Ethan's financial records," she said. "And Lena, you were right. Every lie he told, every accusation, leads back to him." Lena leaned forward, heart pounding. "What do you mean?" Amanda spread out printed pages. Bank statements, transaction histories, credit card logs. "These are gambling debts from an online casino registered under an alias. The same alias that received transfers from your joint account. He wasn't saving for business investments. He was betting everything." Lena's breath caught. "And the $5,000? "Paid directly to the hospital, we confirmed it." Relief flooded her chest, sharp and dizzying. For the first time in months, she had proof that she wasn't the thief he claimed she was. Adrian stood near the window, his reflection framed against the Manhattan skyline. "Once we release this," he said quietly, "his case against you collapses. But I need to ask, do you want to make it public or keep it private?" Lena hesitated. "If I go public, people will finally see who he really is. But it'll also drag me back into the spotlight." Amanda nodded. "It's your choice. The truth always comes with a price." Lena looked down at the papers, each one a reminder of how far she'd fallen just to prove she wasn't what he said. "Then I'll pay it," she whispered. That afternoon, Amanda's team sent the documentation to the family court. Within hours, Ethan's lawyer requested a private meeting to discuss settlement terms. But it was too late. The storm had already begun online. A financial journalist from the Wall Street Journal had picked up the leaked documents. The headline read, "Consultant Ethan Cole under investigation for fraudulent transfers and gambling debts." Lena watched the article load on her phone, her hands trembling. "He's finally exposed." Adrian looked at her, a mix of pride and concern in his eyes. "You won't need to hide anymore." But Lena wasn't celebrating. She remembered the last message Ethan had sent. Watch what happens next. He wouldn't surrender quietly. That night, she tried to sleep, but her mind replayed every argument, every bruise hidden under long sleeves, every whispered apology that meant nothing. When she finally drifted off, her dreams were filled with echoes of his voice, twisting truth into poison. By morning, her phone was flooded again, not with threats, but with messages of support. Women she'd never met wrote, "I went through the same thing. You gave me courage." Lena scrolled through them, tears slipping down her cheeks. "I never meant to become anyone's example," she said softly. Adrian smiled faintly from across the room. "Maybe that's exactly why you did." He handed her a small package, a book wrapped in brown paper. "Something that helped me once." She opened it. Atomic Habits. On the inside cover, a note in his handwriting read, "Tiny steps, big peace." Her heart softened. "You're too kind. Kindness is underrated," he said with a small shrug. Later that evening, Amanda called. "The judge has granted a preliminary injunction. Ethan can't contact you directly or indirectly until the custody hearing." Lena exhaled, relief and disbelief tangling together. Thank you. But before she could hang up, Amanda added quietly, Be careful, Lena. He's unpredictable when cornered. Lena looked out the window at the skyline glowing beneath the rain. Somewhere out there, Ethan was reading the same headlines, watching his empire crumble piece by piece. She could almost feel his rage humming through the distance. She turned to Adrian, whispering, It's almost over. He shook his head slightly. Not yet. Men like him don't fall quietly. And as thunder rolled across Manhattan, Lena knew the next storm wouldn't come from the sky. It would come from him. The next few days passed in uneasy calm. The news cycle had moved on, the tabloids found a new scandal, and for once, Lena's name wasn't trending. But peace, she knew, never lasted long around Ethan. It was the silence before he struck again. She was sitting in the penthouse study, reading through Amanda's latest email about the upcoming custody hearing, when Mia called. Her voice came through in a rush. Lena, you're not going to believe this. I just got a message from Jasmine Leclerc. Lena frowned. Jasmine? Ethan's girlfriend? Ex-girlfriend, Mia corrected. Apparently he hasn't paid her in months. She says she has screenshots, texts, voice notes, all of it. Lena's pulse spiked. What kind of texts? The kind that prove he planned everything. The fake accusations, the staged posts, even the gala drama. She wants to talk. Lena hesitated. What if it's another setup? Mia exhaled. Then we'll go together. She asked to meet at a photo studio in Soho. Public place, cameras everywhere. An hour later, Lena arrived with Mia. The studio smelled faintly of perfume and coffee, the air buzzing with low music. Jasmine stood by the mirror, glamorous even in casual clothes. Her eyes darted nervously when she saw them. Relax, Lena said softly. We're not here to fight. Jasmine laughed bitterly. Ethan always said you were too calm. He hated that about you. Lena said nothing. Jasmine picked up her phone, scrolling through messages. He promised me money to help ruin you, said we'd make you look unstable, but he never paid a cent, and now he's threatening me too. Mia crossed her arms. So why tell us now? Because I want out, Jasmine said flatly, and I want him to suffer. She held out her phone. Here, every message, every voice memo. Use it however you want, just don't mention me. Lena hesitated before taking it. You're sure? Jasmine nodded. He thinks he can control everyone. Maybe it's time he learns what it feels like to lose control. For a long moment, no one spoke. The only sound was the faint buzz of fluorescent lights. Then Jasmine added quietly, He recorded you too, little clips from your arguments. He planned to leak them out of context. He said, and I quote, If I go down, she burns with me. Lena's stomach turned. Why are you telling me this? Because I was you once, Jasmine said, eyes softening. Different face, same story. Back in the car, Lena sat in silence, clutching Jasmine's phone. Mia glanced over. You okay? I'm angry, Lena said, but not at her, at myself for letting him make me feel small for so long. Mia smiled faintly. You're not small anymore. That night, Lena sent all the files to Amanda. Within hours, the lawyer replied, This changes everything. He can't talk his way out of this one. Adrian found her sitting on the balcony, the city glittering beneath a full moon. You did it, he said. You got what we needed. Lena nodded slowly. It's strange. I thought I'd feel happy, but all I feel is tired. He set down 2 mugs of hot tea, sitting beside her. That's what victory feels like sometimes. Quiet. She smiled faintly. There's one more thing I want to do. What's that? Face him. Not in court. In person. One last time. Adrian's jaw tightened. Are you sure? Yes, she said. Because if I don't, I'll always feel like he still owns part of me. He looked at her for a long moment, then nodded. Then I'll be right there. As the city lights shimmered below, Lena closed her eyes, whispering a promise to herself and to the child growing inside her. No more fear. No more running. And far away, Ethan poured a drink, laughing to himself, unaware that the messages he'd once sent in arrogance were about to become the proof that would destroy him. The morning air carried a sharp chill as Lena walked down West 72nd Street, scarf wrapped tight around her neck. She hadn't been here since before everything fell apart. The buildings stood the same. Red brick, ivy creeping along the windows, the smell of coffee drifting from the corner cafe. It was the place she and Ethan had once called home. The doorman, Mr. Hargrove, was on duty, his gray uniform slightly worn but neatly pressed. He looked up, eyes widening when he recognized her. Mrs. Cole, Sorry, Miss Nguyen now, right? Lena smiled faintly. It's been a long time, Mr. Hargrove. He stepped closer, voice lowering. You look better? Healthier? I'm trying, she said. Actually, I came to ask you about something. Do you remember the nights Ethan came back here after we separated? Mr. Hargrove's expression darkened. How could I forget? He was out of control. Twice he showed up after midnight, banging on your door. I had to call building security both times. Lena nodded slowly. Do you still have records of those nights? He thought for a moment. We keep a logbook, dates, incidents, signatures. I can check. She followed him inside. The lobby was exactly as she remembered. Marble floor, potted plants, the faint hum of the heater. He disappeared into the back office and returned with a thick binder. Here, he said, flipping pages. March 18th and April 2nd. Both entries mention him. Her chest tightened as she read the notes in his careful handwriting. Resident Ethan Cole created disturbance, shouting threats. Police warned him to leave. Mr. Hargrove looked up. He scared the whole floor that night. You were lucky you weren't home. Lena swallowed hard. Would you be willing to make a statement for my lawyer? He nodded without hesitation. Of course. You don't deserve what that man's done to you. Thank you, she said softly, blinking back tears. When she stepped back outside, the city noise hit her like a wave. Honking taxis, chatter, the rhythm of a place that never stopped. She bought a cup of soup from the cafe across the street, the kind she used to crave after long shifts. It was simple, warm, grounding. As she sat on a bench, her phone buzzed. It was Adrian. Everything okay? His voice asked through the speaker. I found someone who remembers everything, she said. He has proof Ethan caused public disturbances, actual logs. That's huge, Adrian replied. Amanda will want copies right away. We're almost there, Lena. She smiled weakly. I'm trying to believe that. You should, he said gently, because every lie he told is falling apart, one witness, one document at a time. After hanging up, Lena looked across the street at her old apartment window. For a moment, she saw her younger self there, folding laundry, trying to keep peace, pretending not to notice the anger in Ethan's eyes. The memory stung, but instead of pain, she felt something new, distance. That night, she returned to Adrian's penthouse. Cole, his head of security, was reviewing documents at the kitchen counter. He's running scared, Cole said, looking up. We caught him trying to delete his social media accounts, probably hoping to erase evidence. Lena sighed. He doesn't realize the past doesn't disappear just because you close the window. Adrian walked in, setting his phone on the counter. Amanda's ecstatic. That doorman's testimony makes everything airtight. Lena smiled faintly. Mr. Hargrove saved me twice then, once by calling security and now by remembering. Adrian poured her a glass of water. You've got good people on your side. You always did. As the night deepened, she sat by the window, watching lights flicker across the skyline. Somewhere down there, Ethan was losing everything. His lies, his control, his carefully curated image. And yet Lena didn't feel vengeance, only peace. Because for the first time in years, the truth was louder than his voice. Still, in the back of her mind, she wondered, what would Ethan do when silence was all he had left? The following evening, the River Cafe glowed under string lights along the Brooklyn waterfront. The air was crisp, the skyline stretching behind the glass windows like a painting of a city that never slept. Adrian had chosen the quiet corner table overlooking the East River. He said he needed to talk about something important. Lena arrived in a soft beige coat, her hair tied loosely. She smiled when she saw him, but his expression was different tonight. Serious, almost fragile. Everything okay? She asked, sitting down. Adrian nodded once, then looked out the window. You've been fighting for months, he said quietly. And you've done it with more strength than most people I know, but there's something I need to be honest about before we go any further. Lena's stomach tightened. What do you mean? He hesitated, fingers tracing the rim of his water glass. You're not the only one with scars, Lena. I know what it's like to trust someone and watch them use that trust to destroy you. She leaned forward. Someone hurt you? Adrian gave a small, humorless laugh. My best friend. We built my company together from scratch. Years of work, long nights, risks. Then he sold out to investors who wanted full control. He cashed out, left me with the fallout and lawsuits. I spent months fixing it while the world called me ruthless. Lena's heart softened. That's why you keep people at arm's length. He looked at her, eyes tired but honest. When you showed up that night, soaked and terrified, every instinct I had told me not to get involved. But I couldn't walk away, and that scared me more than anything. Lena smiled faintly. Maybe we both have a habit of saving the wrong people. Adrian exhaled slowly, the tension easing slightly. Maybe. Or maybe we just see what others don't. The waiter arrived with 2 plates, salmon for her, steak for him. They ate quietly for a while, the conversation shifting to lighter things, his new security contracts, her plans after the case, the baby kicking more every day. But there was an undercurrent, something neither of them wanted to say out loud. When dinner ended, Adrian reached into his coat and pulled out a small Amazon box. "This came for you earlier," he said. Lena blinked. "For me?" He nodded. "You ordered it last week. I didn't open it." She tore it open and laughed softly. It was a maternity support belt. "Practical and glamorous," she said jokingly. Adrian chuckled. "At least it's functional." She smiled, then looked at him, her tone softening. "You know, you don't have to protect me all the time. You've already done more than anyone ever has." He met her eyes. "That's not protection, Lena. That's respect." For a moment, neither spoke. Outside, the river shimmered with reflections of the city lights, the sound of jazz faint through the speakers. Finally, she said quietly, "Ethan used to say no man would ever love a woman who fought back, that men only liked women who obeyed." Adrian's jaw tightened. Then he never met a real man. Her chest ached, not from pain, but from the unfamiliar warmth of being seen. Later, as they walked out of the cafe, a breeze swept across the bridge. Adrian offered his coat. She refused. "I'm fine," she said, smiling. He stopped, looking at her beneath the streetlight. "You really are." They stood there silent, the world around them blurring into light and sound. But just as Lena started to believe peace might finally be possible, her phone buzzed again. A private number, no message, just a photo. Her walking into the River Cafe with Adrian, taken only minutes ago. Her heart sank. Someone was watching. She showed Adrian the screen. His eyes darkened instantly. "He's tracking you," he said, again. The wind blew harder, cold against her face, and as they stood by the river, Lena realized that Ethan wasn't finished, not until he'd broken every safe place she'd found. The next morning, the storm finally came, not from the sky, but from the internet. Lena woke to her phone vibrating nonstop. Dozens of notifications flashed across the screen, all carrying the same poison. Gold digger hides behind billionaire boyfriend. Pregnant ex-wife milks her rich savior, the woman who destroyed Ethan Cole's life. Her throat went dry. Ethan had done it again. She opened one post, a long caption from Ethan's verified account. "While I've tried to stay silent, I can't anymore. My ex-wife continues to exploit my name, spreading lies to gain sympathy. I loved her once, but she's not the woman she pretends to be." Hundreds of comments followed. Some called her brave, most didn't. Lena locked the phone and pressed it to her chest, breathing hard. Her baby kicked gently, as if sensing her panic. "It's okay," she whispered. "It's just noise." The door opened, and Adrian appeared, holding 2 mugs of coffee. One look at her face, and his jaw set. What did he do? She handed him the phone. He scrolled silently, eyes narrowing with each line. "He's weaponizing pity," he said finally. "Classic abuser tactic." "I thought exposing him would end this," she murmured. "I thought truth was enough." Adrian shook his head. "Truth doesn't go viral. Drama does." He pulled out his own phone and called Cole. "We need our media team now. Full digital sweep. No retaliation, just facts. If we shout back, he wins." Minutes later, Mia arrived, laptop under her arm, fury blazing in her eyes. "He's trending again, but we can flip it." She opened her computer, showing a folder labeled receipts. "We'd post the evidence, screenshots, the audio from the park, the logbook entries, everything, but without your name attached. No drama, no hashtags, just quiet truth." Lena frowned. "Won't people still twist it?" Mia smiled grimly. "Probably, but they'll have to twist proof now, not rumors." They spent hours crafting the release. Every image was time-stamped, every file watermarked. Adrian insisted on keeping it simple. No comments, no statements, just data. When it went live, it spread faster than expected. Within minutes, journalists began asking questions. A Wall Street reporter posted, "Documents suggest Ethan Cole may have fabricated allegations against ex-wife." Online, the tide began to shift. Comments changed tone. People apologized. Some didn't. But the truth had landed, and it was heavier than Ethan's lies. That evening, Adrian's office buzzed with low voices and phone calls. Screens displayed social analytics. Lena sat quietly by the window, exhausted. Amanda called in on speaker. "Great work. The court's taking note. His social behavior could influence the custody decision." Lena nodded, her voice small. "I didn't want this to turn into a war." Amanda replied firmly, "You didn't start the war, Lena. You're just ending it." When the call ended, Adrian turned to her. "You did good today." She smiled faintly. "I feel like I've been living in survival mode for so long, I don't even know who I am without it." Adrian leaned against the desk. "Then maybe it's time to find out." Later that night, she went for a walk outside the building, craving air. Cameras still lingered across the street, flashes popping occasionally. She kept her head down, walking past a Barnes & Noble on Fifth Avenue. In the display window, she noticed a familiar title, "Women Who Run with the Wolves." She bought a copy impulsively, tucking it into her coat. Back in the penthouse, she read one line that stopped her cold. "A woman who returns to herself finds power no one can take." Her hands trembled slightly, but this time it wasn't fear. It was something fierce. Something alive. Her phone buzzed again. Another text from Ethan. "You think they believe you now? Wait until they see what I've got next." She didn't flinch. She simply turned off the phone, set the book beside her bed, and whispered to herself, "I'm not afraid of you anymore." But outside, Ethan stared at his computer, uploading a new video, one that could destroy her all over again. The wind carried the first hints of winter as Lena stepped out of the cab and stared up at the Plaza Hotel. The same golden lights glowed above the entrance, the same marble steps where everything had started. She hadn't been back since that stormy night, the night she ran for her life and fell into Adrian's arms. Now she was back to finish what had begun here. Inside, the lobby smelled of polished wood and roses, faintly sweet and hauntingly familiar. People drifted by in tailored coats and silk scarves, oblivious to the ghosts that still walked these halls. Amanda had arranged for her to meet with the hotel's security manager. "We need verification," the lawyer had said. "If Ethan was violent that night, the hotel's report will seal it." Lena clutched her tote bag tightly as she approached the reception desk. "I'm here to see Mr. Latham," she said. The receptionist smiled politely. "Of course, Miss Nguyen, he's expecting you." Moments later, she was led to a small office tucked behind the grand hallway. Mr. Latham, the head of security, stood to greet her, a tall man with salt and pepper hair and kind eyes. "Miss Nguyen," he said, shaking her hand. "I remember that night well. The gentleman outside was causing us a scene." Lena's heart skipped. "So it's on record?" He nodded, pulling out a binder. "We keep reports for every incident. Here. March 11th. A male, mid-30s, refused to leave after being denied entry. Staff described aggressive behavior. You were listed as the guest under temporary protection." He slid the report across the desk. Her name was there, printed neatly beside Adrian's signature as responsible guardian. Her throat tightened. "Would you be willing to testify if needed?" she asked quietly. "Absolutely," he said without hesitation. "You were frightened that night. No one deserves to be treated that way." Lena smiled, relief washing over her. "Thank you, Mr. Latham. You just gave me the last piece of the puzzle." As she left the office, she paused at the base of the grand staircase, gazing up at the chandelier that glittered like falling stars. It was strange how a place of fear could now feel like victory. Outside, the air was crisp, the sky pale blue over Central Park. She walked toward the fountain, where families gathered and tourists snapped photos. Every sound, every detail felt clearer, sharper, as if the city itself was waking up with her. Her phone rang. "Amanda." "I have the report," Lena said quickly. "Security confirmed everything. Ethan was here that night. He was violent. It's all documented." Amanda's voice sounded triumphant. "Perfect. This, combined with the financial evidence and witness logs, makes your case unshakable. The court will see the pattern clearly now. Abuse, defamation, harassment." Lena's chest loosened. "So this could really end soon?" "It's already ending," Amanda said. "He's cornered." As Lena hung up, she noticed a familiar black car idling across the street. Her pulse jumped until the door opened and Adrian stepped out. He walked toward her, his coat catching the breeze. "I figured you might come here," he said with a small smile. "You like closing circles." She laughed softly. It feels right, standing where everything changed. He handed her a small paper bag from Starbucks. You skipped lunch again. She took it, smiling. You always notice. He shrugged. I try. For a moment they stood in silence, watching the park. Then Adrian said, You know, when I met you that night, I thought I was saving you. But maybe you were the one who reminded me how to fight for something real. Her eyes softened. Maybe we saved each other. Just then, her phone buzzed with a final message from an unknown number. You win this round, but don't forget who I made you. She read it once, then deleted it without replying. He can't touch me anymore, she whispered. Adrian nodded. No, he can't. As they turned to leave, the afternoon sun spilled through the glass doors, bathing her in light. And for the first time since that rainy night, Lena walked out of the plaza, not as someone escaping, but as someone finally free. The morning of the mediation hearing dawned clear but cold. The city seemed to hold its breath as Lena stood in front of the glass building on Park Avenue, her reflection trembling slightly on the surface. She adjusted the collar of her coat, the weight of her pregnancy pressing gently against her ribs. This was it, the day she would finally face Ethan without fear. Inside, the law firm's office was quiet, except for the ticking of a clock and the low murmur of lawyers preparing their notes. Adrian stood beside her, his presence steady, a calm anchor in a room filled with tension. Across the polished conference table sat Ethan, impeccably dressed, his smug smile fixed in place. His lawyer, a slick man in a gray suit, whispered something into his ear. Lena could feel Ethan's eyes on her, cold and sharp. The same eyes that used to make her shrink now met hers and faltered. She sat upright, chin high, fingers clasped around a small silver pen Adrian had lent her, a Mont Blanc, smooth and cold, grounding her like a promise. The mediator, an older woman with calm authority, cleared her throat. We're here to discuss Mr. Cole's custody request and Miss Moynihan's response. Let's proceed professionally. Ethan leaned back, feigning nonchalance. I'm simply asking for what's fair, he said smoothly. Joint custody. I'm the child's father. Lena's voice was steady. You forfeited that right when you made me live in fear. His lawyer interrupted quickly. My client denies any abuse. In fact, we have messages suggesting Miss Nguyen fabricated many of her claims for sympathy and financial gain. Adrian's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. Amanda, sitting beside Lena, slid a folder across the table. You'll find those messages are edited, she said coolly. Here are the originals, along with verified audio recordings from March 5th, in which Mr. Cole admits to threatening her. Ethan's expression stiffened. That's out of context. Play it, Amanda said. The mediator nodded. Amanda pressed a button on her tablet, and Ethan's voice filled the room, dripping with anger unmistakably his. If you think you can walk away from me, I'll make sure you regret it. Silence followed, heavy and absolute. Ethan's lawyer shifted uncomfortably. This proves nothing. Oh, it proves everything, Amanda replied, eyes like steel. And that's not all. Hotel security reports, witness statements, financial records. Your client's lies are unraveling. Ethan's composure cracked. His voice rose. You can't destroy me, Lena. You wouldn't have anything without me. Lena's hand trembled, but she met his gaze. You're right, I wouldn't. You pushed me so far down that I had no choice but to climb. And now I'm standing here because I learned to live without you. The mediator spoke quietly. Mr. Cole, please lower your voice. Ethan slumped back in his chair, seething. For the first time he looked small, powerless. Amanda gathered her papers. Given this evidence, we're requesting full custody and a restraining order. The court will have no reason to deny it. The mediator nodded. I'll submit my report to the judge within 48 hours. Lena stood, her legs steady. She turned to Ethan one last time. You can stop pretending now. It's over. He stared at her, jaw tight. You'll regret this, he muttered. No, she said softly. I already did. Now I'm free. Outside, the crisp air hit her face like a baptism. Adrian joined her, slipping his coat over her shoulders. You were incredible, he said quietly. She smiled weakly. I wasn't brave. I was tired of being afraid. That's the same thing, he replied. They walked down Park Avenue, sunlight glinting off glass towers, the city alive around them. For the first time in a long while, Lena breathed deeply, the air tasting like freedom. But in the shadow of a nearby building, a camera lens followed her every step, Ethan's final card waiting to be played. By the next evening, the sky over Manhattan was bruised with clouds, heavy with the threat of rain. Lena sat by the penthouse window, staring at the city lights flickering like restless thoughts. She should have felt relief after the mediation, but instead she felt the weight of something unfinished pressing down on her chest. Her phone buzzed again, an unknown number. She hesitated before answering. A familiar voice, low and mocking, came through the line. "Thought you could humiliate me in that office, didn't you?" Her heart stopped. "Ethan." "Don't hang up," he hissed. "I'm not done with you." Her hand trembled. "You're violating the restraining order." "Do you think I care?" he said. "You think a piece of paper can stop me?" Before she could respond, the line went dead. Her pulse pounded. Across the room, Adrian looked up from his laptop, concern tightening his features. "What is it?" "It was him," she whispered. "He called. He sounded different." Adrian's calm broke for the first time. "We're not waiting anymore," he said, grabbing his phone. "Cole, track this number. Now." Within minutes, Cole's voice came through the speaker. "Signal pinged from Midtown. Could be a burner phone. I'll send someone to check." Lena wrapped her arms around herself, shivering despite the warmth. "He's losing control, Adrian. He's dangerous." Adrian crossed the room, placing a hand on her shoulder. "He's desperate because you're winning. He can't stand being powerless." She nodded, but her eyes filled with tears. "What if he hurts someone else just to get to me?" "He won't," Adrian said firmly. "I'll make sure of it." The night deepened. Rain began to fall, soft at first, then harder, drumming against the glass. Lena sat on the couch, staring at the city, exhaustion pulling at her. She wanted to believe it was over, but fear gnawed at the edges of her thoughts. Her phone buzzed again, this time a text. No words, just a video link. She clicked before she could think. The screen filled with her image, footage from outside the courthouse earlier that day. She and Adrian walking together, his arm around her shoulders. The caption below read, "Meet the woman who manipulates powerful men for protection." It was posted from an anonymous account already spreading fast. The comments were vicious, mocking, filled with lies. Lena's breath came fast. "He's leaking this again. He's turning it all back on me." Adrian leaned over her shoulder, jaw tightening. "We'll shut it down. I'll call our PR team." "No," she said suddenly. "Not this time. Let me answer it my way." He hesitated, then nodded slowly. "You sure?" She looked at him, eyes steady. "I've spent years letting him tell my story. It's time I tell it myself." Lena opened her social media account, heart racing. Her hands shook as she began to type. "For months I've been silent while lies were told about me, but silence only feeds control. So here's the truth. I survived emotional and financial abuse. I didn't ruin a man. I escaped one. And to every woman still trapped in fear, you are not weak. You are surviving." She pressed post and set the phone down. Adrian watched her, pride softening his features. "That was brave," she exhaled. "It was necessary." Minutes later, notifications flooded in. Thousands of messages, most supportive, some cruel. But the tide was turning again. Influencers, journalists, even survivors began reposting her words. Her truth had found its echo. Then Cole called back. "We traced the call," he said. "The burner was used from a payphone 2 blocks from your old apartment. He's close." Lena's heart skipped. Adrian met her eyes. "Pack a bag. You're not staying here tonight." "I won't run," she said quietly. "Not again." Adrian's voice was firm. "This isn't running. It's strategy." Lightning flashed outside, cutting through the skyline. Lena looked out at the storm and whispered, "He's trying to scare me." Adrian stepped closer, then let him see he failed. But somewhere in the rain-soaked city, Ethan smiled through the glow of his phone screen, because his next move wasn't fear. It was revenge. The rain hadn't stopped for hours. It fell in steady, relentless sheets against the windows of the Midtown Hotel where Adrian had moved Lena for safety. The room was quiet except for the distant hum of traffic and the rhythmic ticking of the wall clock. Lena sat on the edge of the bed, hands resting over her belly, trying to calm the storm inside her chest. Every shadow made her flinch. Every sound from the hallway pulled her attention. Ethan was out there somewhere, watching, waiting. Adrian entered the room, still in his dark overcoat, droplets of rain glistening on his shoulders. "Cole's team just swept the block," he said. "No sign of him." Lena nodded, her voice barely above a whisper. "He's too smart to be caught that easily." Adrian crouched in front of her, meeting her eyes. "You're safe here, Lena. I promise. She wanted to believe him, but safety to her had always been temporary, a borrowed peace that could vanish with one phone call. I've heard that before, she murmured. Adrian exhaled softly, pulling a chair closer. There's something I need to tell you, something I've been holding back. Lena frowned. What do you mean? He ran a hand through his damp hair, hesitating. After you saved me at Grand Central, I tried to find you. I didn't even know your name. All I had was a police report describing a woman with a lavender scarf. I made a donation to the hospital in your name, anonymous, because I didn't want to seem intrusive. When I saw you that night at the plaza, I knew instantly who you were. Lena stared at him, stunned. You knew all along? He nodded slowly. I didn't want you to feel like you owed me anything. I wanted you to come to me because you chose to, not because of what happened in the past. For a moment, silence filled the room, except for the sound of rain. Then Lena said quietly, You didn't owe me that truth, but thank you for it. He smiled faintly, eyes soft. You saved me twice, Lena. Once at the station, and again when I didn't even realize how empty my life had become. Her breath caught. She wanted to respond, but emotion tangled the words in her throat. The phone on the nightstand buzzed suddenly, slicing through the quiet. Both of them turned toward it. The screen lit up with a message from an unknown number. Adrian grabbed it before she could. He read aloud, voice darkening. You think you're her hero? You're just another fool she's using. She'll ruin you too. Lena's heart pounded. It's him. Adrian placed the phone down, his tone controlled but cold. He's escalating. He wants a reaction. Then let's not give him one, Lena said. But her hands betrayed her, shaking slightly, betraying the fear she tried to hide. Adrian reached for her hand. Hey, look at me. You're not alone in this anymore. She met his eyes, and for a moment the world outside the window disappeared. The storm, the fear, the noise. There was only the warmth of his voice, the steadiness in his gaze. Adrian, she began, but before she could finish, a loud knock echoed from the hallway. Adrian stood instantly. Stay here. He walked to the door, motioned for Cole, stationed outside, to check. Moments later, Cole opened it to reveal a hotel staff member, soaked from the rain, holding a small envelope. For Miss Nguyen, he said. Adrian took it cautiously, dismissing the man. He ripped it open. Inside was a single photograph, Lena, standing at the window hours earlier. The shot was taken from outside, through the rain. Lena's breath hitched. He was here. Adrian's jaw tightened. He's watching this building. We're leaving now. Cole moved into action, calling the car. Lena grabbed her coat, her body trembling. As they stepped into the dim hallway, she clutched Adrian's hand. How far will he go? Adrian looked down the corridor, eyes hard. As far as he thinks he can. They reached the elevator. The doors slid shut, sealing them inside with the faint echo of thunder above the city. And just as the elevator descended, Lena realized something chilling. Ethan didn't want to hurt her anymore. He wanted to destroy the one person who stood between them. By the time they reached the car, rain was falling in heavy, icy sheets. Cole drove fast through the slick streets of Manhattan, his eyes flicking between mirrors. Lena sat in the back seat, clutching her coat to her chest. Every flash of lightning lit the city like a warning. Adrian sat beside her, silent, phone pressed to his ear. Security has eyes on the hotel, he told Cole quietly. If Ethan's still nearby, they'll find him. Lena's voice trembled. He took that picture through the window. That means he was close. How did no one see him? Adrian glanced at her, his jaw tightening. He's careful, but he's sloppy when angry. He'll slip. Cole turned down a side street toward a quieter part of the city. We'll keep you out of sight tonight. I have a place near the river, secure, private. But just as he said it, the car jolted. A dark SUV swerved in front of them, cutting across 2 lanes. Cole slammed the brakes, tires screeching. Lena gasped, thrown forward before Adrian's arm pulled her back. The SUV's door opened, and for a moment she saw him, Ethan, standing in the rain, face twisted with fury, drenched to the bone. Adrian cursed under his breath. Stay down. Cole shifted into reverse, spinning the car into a sharp turn. Ethan lunged forward, pounding on the window, shouting words drowned out by the storm. Cole hit the gas. The car fishtailed before speeding away, lights blurring through the rain. Lena's heart raced wildly. He's out of control. He's lost it. Adrian pulled out his phone. Calling 911. But before he could finish, Lena gasped, clutching her belly. Pain seared through her lower abdomen, sharp and sudden. "Adrian," she cried, voice breaking. "Something's wrong." Adrian's face went white. "Cole, hospital, now." Within minutes they were racing through the city again, sirens wailing behind them as rain hammered the roof. Lena's breathing came in short, panicked bursts. "It's too soon," she said, tears streaming down her face. "It's not time yet." Adrian held her hand tightly. "You're gonna be okay. Just breathe, okay? In and out." The car screeched to a stop in front of Mount Sinai Hospital. Adrian scooped her into his arms before she could protest, rushing through the sliding doors. The sterile brightness hit them like daylight. Nurses swarmed, guiding them toward the maternity wing. "I'm her partner," Adrian said firmly as they placed Lena on a stretcher. "She's 34 weeks, possible preterm labor." A doctor nodded briskly. "We'll monitor her contractions and stabilize. Sir, wait outside for now." Adrian hesitated until Lena squeezed his hand weakly. "Go, I'll be okay." He nodded, forcing calm, and stepped out. Cole stood in the hallway, soaked and tense. "Police have eyes on Ethan's vehicle," he said. "He ran after you left. They'll find him." Adrian raked a hand through his hair. "He's already done enough." Inside the delivery room, Lena lay hooked to monitors, tears mingling with sweat. She tried to breathe through the pain as nurses spoke softly around her. The rhythmic beep of the fetal heart monitor was the only sound that kept her grounded. When Adrian was finally allowed back in, she looked up at him with exhausted eyes. "I'm scared," she whispered. He took her hand again. "I know, but you're safe now. I'm not going anywhere." Hours passed like blurred minutes. The storm outside faded into silence. Finally, the doctor smiled. "Contractions have slowed. We stopped the labor. She and the baby are stable." Adrian exhaled for what felt like the first time in hours. He brushed a strand of hair from Lena's face, his touch gentle. "You did it," he murmured. She smiled faintly, eyes glassy. "No, we did." Outside the hospital window, dawn broke over the skyline, pale and soft. But in the quiet hallway beyond the maternity ward, a police officer spoke into his radio. "Suspect's vehicle found abandoned near the river. No sign of him." Adrian froze when he overheard. And as sunlight touched the city, he knew. Ethan hadn't run. He was waiting for the right moment to return. 3 weeks later, winter sunlight spilled through the tall windows of the Manhattan family court. The city outside moved like clockwork, cars honking, heels clicking. But inside the courtroom, time felt suspended. Lena sat at the plaintiff's table, her palms damp against the smooth wood. She was calm on the surface, but her pulse was thunder beneath her ribs. Across the room, Ethan sat with his attorney. He wore an expensive suit, every inch of him polished to perfection. To anyone else, he looked like a grieving man wronged by fate. But Lena knew better. She saw the tightness in his jaw, the bitterness behind the fake remorse. Adrian sat quietly behind her, his presence steady. He had chosen not to speak today. This was her fight, and she would finish it herself. The judge, a woman in her 50s with gray-streaked hair, called the session to order. "We're here to finalize custody proceedings and review evidence concerning harassment, defamation, and financial abuse." Amanda stood. "Your Honor, my client, Miss Nguyen, has provided extensive evidence of Mr. Cole's misconduct. Financial records, witness statements, and digital threats." She gestured toward the screen where a slideshow appeared. Screenshots of Ethan's messages, timestamps, bank logs, even the hotel report from the plaza. All verified and authenticated. Ethan's lawyer rose sharply. "Your Honor, these so-called messages could have been altered. My client has maintained from the beginning." The judge raised a hand. "I've reviewed the digital forensic report. The data is consistent and unmodified." "Continue, Ms. Small, raise." Amanda nodded, moving to the final slide. "This," she said, clicking the remote, "is an audio recording from March. Mr. Cole threatening Miss Nguyen with retaliation should she leave him." The sound filled the courtroom. Ethan's voice, unmistakable, venomous. "If you think you can walk away, I'll make sure you regret it every single day." Lena didn't flinch this time. She sat tall, hands steady on her lap. The judge's eyes flicked toward Ethan. "Mr. Cole," she said, her voice cool, "do you deny this is your voice?" Ethan shifted, jaw tightening. "It's taken out of context. She provoked me." Amanda interjected, tone sharp. "There's no context that justifies a threat, Your Honor." The judge leaned back. "I agree." The room went silent. Lena could hear her own heartbeat. She thought of all the nights she had cried into pillows to muffle the sound, all the mornings she had painted on a smile and gone to work pretending everything was fine. Every bruise, every insult, every manipulation, all of it led here. The judge set down her glasses. After reviewing the evidence, the court finds Mr. Cole unfit for shared custody. Effective immediately, full custody of the unborn child is granted to Ms. Nguyen. Furthermore, a restraining order will remain active for 5 years. Mr. Cole is ordered to complete a rehabilitation program for anger and financial misconduct. The gavel hit the block with a sharp crack. It was done. Ethan shot to his feet. "You can't do this," he shouted, face red with fury. "She's lying. She used me." Bailiff stepped forward, ready to intervene. Lena stood slowly, her voice quiet but strong. "No, Ethan, you used me, and I survived." Their eyes met, one filled with hate, the other with peace. He lunged forward, but the bailiffs caught him before he could take another step. The judge's gavel came down again. "Order." As Ethan was escorted out, shouting her name, Lena turned away. The noise faded behind her like an echo from another life. Outside the courthouse, the cold air hit her cheeks, sharp and clean. Reporters shouted questions, cameras flashed, but she ignored them all. Adrian stepped beside her, placing his coat around her shoulders. "It's over," he said softly. She nodded, eyes glistening. "No, it's just beginning." He smiled faintly. "For you and the baby." She looked up at the winter sky, pale blue and endless. For all the women who think silence keeps them safe. And somewhere far from the courthouse, Ethan sat alone in a holding cell, his reflection in the metal wall finally showing him the man he had become. Small, powerless, forgotten. Snow dusted the streets of Manhattan like powdered sugar, softening the noise of the city. A month had passed since the verdict. Ethan's name had vanished from the headlines, his arrogance swallowed by the silence of his own downfall. For Lena, the world finally felt still again. She stood by the window of her new apartment overlooking the Hudson River, a small but warm space filled with morning light. The baby's crib sat near the window, a tiny bundle of peace beneath a soft gray blanket. Her hands rested on the railing as she watched the sunrise spread gold across the water. The apartment wasn't luxurious like Adrian's penthouse or the plaza's suites. It didn't need to be. Here, there were no memories of fear. Just the sound of a kettle whistling, the soft cooing of her newborn son, and the quiet promise of a new life. Mia knocked and entered with a grin, carrying a grocery bag. "I brought supplies, diapers, coffee, and something for your bookshelf." Lena smiled. "You're my hero." Mia set down the bag and pulled out a small wooden photo frame. Inside was a candid shot. Lena holding her baby in the hospital, eyes closed, exhaustion and joy written all over her face. "You looked peaceful for the first time," Mia said softly. "I thought you'd want to remember that." Lena touched the frame, her chest tightening. "Peace feels strange after so much chaos." "Get used to it," Mia said. "You earned every second." They sat together for a while, sipping coffee from mismatched mugs. On the counter lay a book, Women Who Run with the Wolves. Its worn spine showed how often Lena had opened it during sleepless nights, searching for pieces of herself in its pages. When Mia left, Adrian arrived quietly, knocking once before stepping inside. He held a box wrapped in simple brown paper. "Housewarming gift," he said. Lena laughed. "You're really bad at surprises." "I know," he admitted, setting it on the table. "Open it anyway." Inside was a small wooden mobile of stars and moons, handmade, painted in soft shades of white and gold. She looked up at him, eyes shining. "It's beautiful." He shrugged lightly. "He'll need something to dream under." For a moment, neither spoke. The air between them was full but calm. Adrian looked at the baby sleeping peacefully in the crib. "He has your calm," he said. Lena smiled. "And your stubbornness, probably." They both laughed softly. He hesitated before saying, "You know, when I first met you, I thought I was helping someone fragile." "But you were never fragile, Lena. You were just surviving in a world that mistook endurance for weakness." Her throat tightened. "You helped me remember that I had a choice." Adrian's gaze lingered on her for a moment longer before he said quietly, "Whatever comes next, you don't owe anyone your story anymore. You get to write it however you want." She nodded. "I already started." He smiled, then reached into his coat and pulled out a folded envelope. "One more thing. A contract. My company's starting a new foundation, Grants for Women Rebuilding After Abuse. I want you to be part of it. As a partner, not a charity case. Lena blinked, surprised. Are you serious? Completely, he said. You have a voice people listen to now. Use it. She looked at the baby, then back at him. Then yes, let's do it. He exhaled, relieved. Good. We'll make something real out of all this. As the day faded, Adrian left quietly, promising to return soon. Lena rocked her son in her arms, humming softly. Outside, the snow kept falling, covering the city in white. She glanced at the photo on the shelf. Her, the baby, and Adrian in the hospital room, smiling despite exhaustion. Beneath it, she had written a small note. Not every storm destroys. Some wash you clean. The baby stirred, and she whispered, We're safe now, little one. The kettle whistled again, and the scent of tea filled the air. The city lights blinked awake beyond the window, but inside their tiny apartment, everything was finally still. And for the first time since that night in the rain, Lena knew she hadn't just survived. She had begun to live. So, that's how Lena's story ends. She didn't just survive, she learned to live again. And if you're still here, watching until now, maybe something in her journey touched you too. Maybe it reminded you that pain doesn't define you, how you rise from it does. You see, Marcus Aurelius once wrote, the obstacle is the way. Every storm, every betrayal, every loss, it's not there to break you, but to rebuild you. Lena found peace not in revenge, but in reclaiming herself. One quiet breath at a time. And that's something all of us can do. Start again, no matter how dark it gets. If this story moved you, don't just scroll away. Leave a like, share it with someone who might need a little light tonight, and subscribe to our channel. Because here, we believe healing isn't the end of the story, it's the beginning of a new one.